My name is Carsten Nicolai. I'm an artist. I'm working in the field of visual arts, music. As well, I founded a label called Noton, Archiv für Ton und Nichtton. When I'm performing or do music, I work under the pseudonym of Alva Noto. At the beginning, when I started recording, I was not necessarily interested in music. But in this time, in the mid-90s, it was a very vivid time of electronic music, labels getting founded here and there. There was Warp Records, Mego, Seikyo in Finland, there was Codex in Japan. So it was a lot of things happening in parallel. But what was everybody had in common was that you never worked under your normal name. I founded No Tone, what means basically not on, or tone is basically sound in German. And then I was traveling in Sicily, and I had to make the decision under which name I'm releasing my first album. And I saw this little sign, Noto. What is a city in Sicily? And said, okay, actually typographically looks perfect, 4 letters, simple. I take this. And in this time I was living in New York, and there was a little bar next to the house when I walked home in the night, and this bar was called Alva. So Alva Noto was actually a person, but was not really clear at the beginning if this was a male or female person, what I liked a lot. At the same time I was a visual artist, and it's sometimes very difficult to start something new if people know already that you have a certain kind of standing in another field. I don't know what it is, but people don't believe that you can do something in 2 fields in the same time. So I was working anonymously. So now I'm in the situation after this 25 or almost 30 years now. Some people still know or know now that Carsten Nicolai is Alva Noto. But some people don't. So Alva Noto is more or less a band project with 1 member, me. In the very beginning, the idea of Alva Noto was basically my imagination of a club music event where you step into a little underground club in Tokyo and you hear the music you never heard before, how you imagine the future music should sound like. That was the very beginning, a little bit the idea. That specifically the releases with the Uni, what started with Trans and with Uni, and now with Para. I always choose these weird prefixes. They are all very much have this approach of rhythmical music, what is supposed to be club music, but obviously nobody can dance to it. Probably you have to invent new dance styles in the same time as you invent new music. Of course, this transformed into something more serious after so many years. And as well, it expanded into different territories with collaborations. There was as well a very strong ambient or non-beat or soundtrack-like music aspect what was coming into my life. Specifically with the collaborations with Ryuichi Sakamoto, but it's quite known. I'm completely autodidactic. I come a little bit out of this school of the mid-80s when I was in my teenager times. You can do whatever you want to do. I try not to be afraid, I just do things. I never saw myself as a musician. And I have really big difficulties to name myself as a composer or it's classical, very difficult to name myself in such classical descriptions, boxes, whatever. Because I come from a very strong visual background. And when I started composing, in the beginning I had an analog setup, but relatively fast I moved into a digital domain. And when you're working with computers, you're working with screens automatically. So for me, it felt always completely natural to connect the music to images. I was thinking always the sound itself should draw the images. So what I did was I designed analyzers. In the beginning being analog, more or less with circuit bending, some video converters, and feed into these video converters analog audio signals that are not necessarily fitting together, but broke a lot of equipment, but experimented a lot with this kind of stuff. More or less oscilloscopes, phase analyzing. So I'm analyzing the sound. And based on this idea, I developed more or less a very huge number of analyzers. It's basically pure analysis of data, of musical aspects, of phase between left and right channel, of the impact of low, high, mid frequencies, and then build an analyzer what has or what responds aesthetically to the track and to the feeling of the track at the same time. To build these analyzers actually sometimes takes more time as to build the track. They are not necessarily technically always precise because I tune them in the end more aesthetically. But the foundation of these analyzers are pure sound analyzers. So whatever I'm playing, the sound is making the image. And this is all happening in real time as well. So it's not really that I have prepared video footage or it's a kind of collage or whatever. This is in the live performance not happening. I'm known as a visual artist for sound installation, but actually I don't do in visual arts context much sound. I believe sound is something you can better experience in a performative space rather than in an installative situation. There needs to be a certain kind of attention for a very compressed moment. In the very beginning I was not very much interested in any kind of rhythmic or melodic music. But I incorporate a lot of the knowledge of this psychoacoustics or of very extreme patterns, what my real love is in, and incorporate this in a kind of rhythmic set. And people like it in this constellation. The most enjoyable part in the performance is for me actually when I reduce everything to one single sound. When I say, wow, I can just play 1 second, one tone, and the audience is there with me together. And it's super abstract, but everybody understands this abstraction. I always say, if I would play my live set in reverse, you would not understand that. It's a kind of journey where in the end you can digest things what you in the beginning could not digest. But as well, what is very important for the people is the quality of a social experience, and this is a kind of second work what you do on top to create the atmosphere by choosing the right location, choosing the right PA. I was running with friends for many years a club in Chemnitz. I visit a lot of clubs. I performed a lot. But as well, when I'm performing in festivals or in little clubs or in locations, I like to go to the audience and stay inside and see the act before or after me. I do this almost every time. And then I learn a lot how stages work, how spaces work. It's a very interesting time right now, because when you think about that, real-time visuals in the digital domain is relatively young. Maybe 10 years that we have a very fluid setup. In the very beginning, the limitation was kind of helpful. I mean, if you wanted to program something, you needed to strip it down to the core and to need to write really well code and that it was fluid and real-time. Today you don't need this anymore because obviously the computer power is so strong and the graphic engines are so advanced that we're facing now a complete different situation. We're facing this that you can choose your aesthetic. And that makes it as well, I think, for many artists, it makes, produces a problem. Because basically you have the full color box now in front of you, instead of in the past where the technical limitations gave you aesthetic. What is of course very pure and in this way very true or very direct. Now we can create any kind of surface, and obviously everybody goes in the moment for very real images. I choose my aesthetic very early already, so I don't need necessarily to make a new decision right now. So for me, because I'm a visual artist as well, and I work in a visual domain, I have a certain vocabulary on visuals what I practice with a pencil, not with a computer, with maybe a brush or whatever. So this is incredibly helpful now for me. I'm working on a setup what is the foundation was done maybe 20 years ago. So I'm more or less always expanding the patterns, using new elements, adding new elements. Let's say you have to see this more as a modular system. Some of the modules who all work in the past, the general structure I keep. But I'm adding new elements. So there are maybe, in the end it looks and sounds different, but the fundamental structure was designed many years ago. Obviously the entertainment industry is now on a point where they go for very extreme formats. If you look at the Sphere in Las Vegas or this kind of multi-sensorial experiences, what I would love to perform. I mean, this was a kind of dream setup for me. But at the same time, we're realizing we're reaching a kind of limitation here. Obviously, we are not 100% made for so much input. It's a very specific phase now, specific for interfaces in digital domain. We're realizing that something is clashing here right now, that our lives and what we want and how we want to do things are not necessarily supported anymore by the technology. In the past was a little bit kind of, let's say, this big excitement that the technology can help us to do things what we could never achieve, but now it looks, I think it's almost like a flip back, maybe because of these overwhelming possibilities. It's a long time that I haven't performed in Berlin. I became a little bit picky, let's say, in terms of I thought like, if I want to do something because I didn't do for such a long time something, I would love to do something where the conditions are, for me, ideal, and maybe challenging as well. And it's very difficult, it sounds weird, but it's very difficult to find acoustically well-treated space in Berlin for concerts. It sounds weird because there are so many, but there is not a space where to go to place necessarily where you say, this would be the place. The only place what keeps coming back to me was Berghain. That was my biggest wish, and luckily it worked out. I feel part of Berghain, even if I was never really a resident DJ, I performed a few times there. Berghain was created by a specific generation. This is exactly my generation. Berghain has as well a history what is very connected to my history. And the community, what is built around that club, what reaches outside Berghain, is as well a part of of Berlin, of my surrounding. So of course I have a very close relationship to this place. It's a very unique space. First of all, because it's survived for a very long time without without having compromised. And I think some of the foundations of that place are being very well designed at the beginning, so that this space is still existing and still works. When you live in Berlin and when you are interested in electronic music, it's one of the very radical, uncompromising spaces for performance, what I really appreciate.